Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Today we are playing a bit of a spicy one. We are playing Painter's Servant Mana Maze control. So Painter's Servant plus Grindstone is a combo I play all the time. It's one of my favourites in Legacy. We don't really need to talk about that anymore. Mana Maze, on the other hand, is a bit different. This is something I've played maybe once before as a sideboard card. So this is a 2-mana enchantment. Players can't cast spells that share a colour with the most recently cast spell this turn, etc, etc. So if your opponent is playing like elves or a combo deck and they play their green elf, they can't play any more green spells that turn. If they play their dark ritual, no more black spells. Now, they can alternate between like coloured spell, colourless spell, or two different colours of spells. You can go like dark ritual, lotus petal, dark ritual, that sort of thing, and alternate. But it's going to be very difficult for combo decks to work around it. But we're trying to make it so it's hard for everyone to work around it. So Painter's Servant choosing a colour and making sure that all cards of that colour means someone on their turn gets to cast a spell. Now, if you cast an instant in their upkeep, that is the last spell that gets to be cast that turn. So the idea of this is we're trying to lock our opponents out by casting an instant on our opponent's upkeep with Mana Maze and Painter's Servant in play. Now, to keep doing this over and over again, we need to assemble Eternal Witness and Ephemerate. So between these two cards, they'll just keep blinking, and then we'll keep buying back our Ephemerate, and then our Ephemerate will keep going in their turn. Now, this doesn't really stop our opponent from... this doesn't really win us the game, but it stops our opponent from doing anything. So as long as they don't have anything in play, we can use our Painter's Servant to slowly grind them down for 1 life a turn. We can't use the Witness because it's always going to be summoning sick, but that's kind of the plan. Now, if they do have something in play, we can throw in this Hydroblast. And what this does is we can loop this into our sequence of loops so that we can blow up a permanent every turn. So we Hydroblast our opponent in their draw step, in their upkeep, to get rid of whatever's in the way. And then on our turn, we Ephemerate our guy, and then it gets back the Hydroblast, which we use in their upkeep, and then the Ephemerate flickers this to get the Ephemerate back, and we kind of go through that song and dance a few times. Now, what if our opponent's got instants and can cast stuff as soon as they get priority on their turn, or even in our turn? We have 4 Teferi Time Ravelers. So this means our opponent... this can make it a completely hard lock. Now, the issue with this is that this is a lot of cards to assemble in a format that is incredibly fast right now. So Witness, Mana Maze, Ephemerate, Painter's Servant. That's quite a lot on its own. When you're chucking in the Teferi and the Hydroblast as options, that's like a, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 card combo potentially. So it's going to be a bit tricky to assemble. I don't even know if we're ever going to assemble this combo in the league. It seems very unlikely, but we'll give it a go. Now, to work around with all this stuff, we've got the usual suite of blue spells. We've got Brainstorms, we've got Ponders, we've got Force of Wills to keep ourselves protected. We've also got an Enlightened Tutor, which can fetch Painter's Servant Grindstone, but it can also fetch Mana Maze. So it's kind of got a little bit of double duty there. We don't have anything aside from Carpet of Flowers that we can fetch from the sideboard with it when we board them in. So it's mainly just for these main deck things. So if in a matchup where Mana Maze is going to be really good on turn 2, like a Storm deck or something, or an Elves deck, we can keep the Enlightened Tutor around to get our Mana Maze back. So that's more or less what the deck is doing. Now, my immediate impression of this deck is a few things. Firstly, this is a lot of cards in a format that's very aggressive. I don't think we're realistically going to be able to assemble it. Secondly, if we're not assembling this, what does our deck do? Now, the Painter's Servant Grindstone combo is very good, so that's fine. But then a lot of the rest of our stuff is, if our opponent's making any sort of pressure on board, we're probably just going to be behind. Because our Ice-Fangs, how likely are they going to have Death Touch when we've got 3 snow cover basics, but we're trying to cast 4 colours worth of spells? Now that feels like it might prove a little bit difficult, because we're going to have to fetch jewels early on until we know how many lands we're going to get. You know, if we've got a really land-heavy hand, then yeah, we can fetch the snow lands, but we don't really want a land-heavy hand. But we want to be able to cast our spells. So I'm not sure how likely we're going to do that. And Leovold is a card we're splashing black for. I understand why it's here, because, you know, it's a sort of lock piece that stops your opponent drawing more cards, gives you a little bit of flexibility in terms of your stuff being protected. But I think splashing an additional colour is very greedy, personally. I think if this was Narset and we had more basics and just a more streamlined mana base, then our Ice-Fangs would be better, and we'd be able to contest things on board a little bit better than we can now, which might not be very much considering the setup of this deck. Also, we're only playing one Abrupt Decay in the sideboard, so that's not really a lot of worth of playing black cards, in my opinion at least. But we're going to test it and see how it goes. We've got a couple of utility lands, Otawara and Boseiju. They're things that we can use under Mana Maze, which is another problem, I think, with Mana Maze as a main deck card. I think it's a good sideboard card for some decks. But I think as a main deck card, there is also the risk of Urza Saga, Boseiju, Otawara, things like that just ignore the casting spells thing, so they get to do this. Now, there's not a lot of Aether Vial in the format at the moment, so that's another bonus for Mana Maze, because obviously Aether Vial on turn 1 underneath the Mana Maze kind of makes Mana Maze look like a bit of a joke. But there's not a lot of D&T, there's not a lot of Aether Vial because the format's so fast. But because it's so fast, can we assemble all these bits and pieces? I don't know. I don't think so. But I'm going to try my best, and I'm looking forward to giving it a go, because it's, you know, if someone's got a weird Painted Servant deck, you know I'm going to play it, right? So here we are. Quick talk about the sideboard. I like the configuration of the sideboard, I should just say. Apart from the black card that, whatever. But what I do like about the sideboard is there's lots of overlapping things that do stuff. So we've got Artifact Destruction in like Abrupt Decay, Force of Vigor, Prismatic Ending. So we've got different forms of Artifact Destruction, but they all kind of overlap. And we've got removal, we've got swords, we've got Prismatic Ending, we've got Abrupt Decay. So we've got a selection of different removal spells there. We've got Graveyard Hate, we've got Endurances and Surgical Extraction. So we've got similar things. We've got a little bit of counterspell protection in terms of Flusterstorm to force our own things through, and Veil of Summer. So we've kind of got a lot of different cards, but they all do similar functions but slightly different, so that you're going to be boarding them in and you're sort of covering your bases in a really nice way. I quite like that. Rather than, I do like dedicated sideboard things for like where you just need hammers for certain matchup as well, but that's not really what this deck's trying to do. So I understand the sideboard. I think it's relatively well built. Okay, so that's about it. So before we jump into a league, let me just say, like, comment, subscribe. These things are free. They cost you nothing, and they really help my channel out. So if you could do that, that'd be wonderful. All right, let's jump into a Legacy League with Bant Mana Maze Painter or something. I'm sure I'll think of a good name for it when I put it up. All right, let's go. We're on the draw. We have a Force of Will to get us to turn 2, and we can deploy Ice-Fang, and then we can try and use our Eternal Witness to buy some things back and get a bit more value that way. So I think this is a keeper. We can also play out fetch lands, so we're not exposed to wasteland in the first few turns of the game. Until we want to be, essentially. We can always use Witness to buy back a fetch land as well, to help smooth out our mana. Polluted Delta. This gets an Underground Sea. Womps. This could be Reanimator. This looks like Reanimator. If we... they've got 5 cards in hand. So if we counterspell this, we definitely get another turn of the game. If we don't counterspell this, they might Thoughtseize our Force of Will, and the game might just be over. So I think we will fire this off. This can slow our opponent down by 2 turns, perhaps. Force of Will. Okay. So we've got another Force of Will lined up here. Our opponent is more likely to just throw something out now, rather than discard us, because we've already spent some resources. So we'll see. They're cracking their Verdant Catacombs. I have the impression that our opponent's on Reanimator. A Faithless Looting. I think this is worth hitting, just because it's put stuff in the graveyard. The only problem is if we hit this, then they get to just do it again next turn. I think we'll let this go. We've kind of telegraphed the fact that we have a counterspell in hand, though. Summer's Emissary. So we can counter a Reanimate here. Unmask targeting us. Yep. So we're going to lose the Force of Will here. And they're probably going to Reanimate the Emissary. And we should have countered the Faithless Looting. And Entomb. Okay. Interesting. Alright. We're keeping this uncracked in case we draw a Brainstorm. So our opponent's got 1 card in hand. I have to imagine it's a Reanimation spell. Probably a 2-mana Reanimation spell. That'd be my guess. Okay, a Ponder. This is a good one for us. We'll play out the Tundra. We'll cast this Ponder. Boseiju, Ephemerate, and Eternal Witness. So Boseiju is going to be good if our opponent is planning on doing an Animate Dead. But in any other situation, this Boseiju is going to be bad. Do I want to... So I can have a 2 in 51 chance of drawing a Force of Will. We've also have 4 Brainstorm, which give us another chance, and 4 Ponder. Would I rather play for those odds of the 2 Force of Wills left in our deck? Or would I rather go for the Boseiju if they have one of their 4 animate deads. I don't think they've got a 1 mana reanimation spell because they would have fired it off then on the Emissary, I reckon. Also, if we Ephemerate on the... if we Boseiju and blow up the thing, they're getting a Grizzlebrand back anyway, so they're going to have so many cards. So I think we need to put them back on any order and shuffle and try and hit one of our blue cards. There we go. Look at that. I did some maths and worked out that Grizzlebrand drawing 7 is going to be better than anything we're going to do. So we need to stop that at all costs. All right. So our opponent is unlikely to have a way of discarding our hand. They did have the animate dead though, so I had the read on that one. But the fact is, we can't allow this to happen because they draw the 7 cards. If it was just the 7's Emissary, then I would take that. I would take the Boseiju, I think. But the fact that it's a guy that gets them more resources means that we have to say no to that one. So this time we would like to draw a blue card. We did not draw a blue card. So we have choices here. Then we'll play out the Savannah. We'll crack this. I think we're just getting a ponder back. So we need another green source. Probably a tropical island here. The Windswept Heath can go and get us a Bayou when we need one, or if we need one. So green, green, and 1. So we have a choice. We can get a Force of Will here, or we can get the ponder. Now the Force of Will sort of project strength for our opponent and make them want to find a counterspell first. But a ponder is just going to be better most of the time, I think. Like they'll have to find discard if we get the Force of Will back. But I think we just need the ponder. We need to do something with our turn. Like if we get an Ephemerate, we can get all these things back. So I think it's correct to get a ponder there because our opponent just needs to find 1 discard spell and a reanimation spell, and then they have us. And that's kind of what most of their deck is, really. And they might go for it anyway if we get the Force of Will back. Reanimate. Sure, they're going for it. They knew we had the Windswept Heath, actually, from earlier. Okay, so they're on to 3 life here. So maybe we can try and squeak a little bit of damage through. We've got an Otawara that we can draw. So we can bounce this and bash for 2. And that will put our opponent to 1, which will make fetch land switched off. Okay, so we're going to lose our ponder here. Oh no, they're hitting themselves. Okay, sure. So getting rid of the Archon of Cruelty. If they reanimate this, we're just dead. I don't think we can beat this. I think it's worth trying to beat that either. Sure. So I mentioned at the deck tech that we had some sideboard cards that were better versus Delver rather than Reanimator in the form of Endurance. And we're going to get a little bit punished for that now. But I think playing to beat Delver, to be better against Delver makes sense because it is the best deck in the format. So, we want these Endurances. These Flusterstorms are pretty nice. This Surgical Extraction is pretty nice. This Veil of Summer is actually quite nice to stop discard spells hitting us. The Swords to Plowshares is something we can play, but I think that's a case of something's gone wrong if we're doing that. So I think we're better off like this. And we're going to have to cut some spells. So the Mana Maze is okay at stopping them doing their thing. I don't think we're going to have time to assemble all of our bits and pieces. Teferi can catch stuff if they are trying to deploy something on the board. We can bounce it. That's better than bring in removal because it also draws us cards. I don't think this is going to be a Leovold game. Yes, it's good if they're trying to hit us with discard, but it's a 3-mana spell that maybe we don't have time to do anything with here. Let's see what else. So the Eternal Witness getting back our counter spells and stuff seems good. Hydroblast does have targets in this matchup in terms of the Faces Looting, so I don't hate that. What are we looking at cutting here? We're probably looking at cutting some amount of our combo, to be honest. Which means if we're cutting some of our combo, we're probably looking at cutting Mana Mazes as well. We've got 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, we've got loads of cards for blue. For Force of Wills. We can cut some Mana Maze. Maybe we're just getting rid of the combo altogether and just playing some guys like this. I don't think we need to just suppress what our opponent's doing with the Mana Mazes and stuff. So I don't think we need the full combo. I like having the tutor pieces. I like having green cards. We're looking at 2 more cuts. Is it the Ephemerate? Probably is the Ephemerate here. I think we're just wanting to deploy a little bit of stuff, keep them off balance for long enough that we can deploy some stuff and hopefully take over the game with endurances and things. Sure, we'll run it like this. Okay, so we have our combo. We have a little bit of protection in terms of Flusterstorm. I think we can keep this one. Our mana is not going to be attacked by a Reanimate deck, although they sometimes use... so we play out Trop so we can cast this Flusterstorm. They sometimes have Magus of the Moon as an option in their sideboard. But that's more for like lands matchup that are trying to win with their mana. Right, so we have this Swamp. We have this Lotus Petal. Okay, so we have a Flusterstorm that's going to be a hard counter for the first thing they do here. Thoughtseize. They're going to take the Flusterstorm anyway, so we may as well scare them into thinking we have more things. This is just denying our opponent information here. So this is going to make our opponent think we have a Force of Will as well, I imagine. And Unmask, targeting us. Sure. This is where something like a Leyline in our sideboard would be a lot better than the Endurances. But we don't really have that choice, I'm afraid. So they've got options here. I think they probably break up our combo, most likely the Painted Servant. But depending on which creature they're trying to reanimate, the Teferi might be the one. So they're trying to reanimate a guy that just sits in play. Okay, taking the Grindstone. That's a weird choice to me. Because the Grindstone doesn't do anything without a Painter. But Painter does stuff without Grindstone because Pyroblast and stuff exist. Hydroblast exists. Okay, so there's a Grizzlebrand in their graveyard. That'll be a reasonable turn to draw an Endurance. A Brainstorm. This gives us 3 looks at Endurance or a Surgical. Gives us a Flusterstorm, but with no mana to pay for it because we're running Bayou in our deck. So this Painter doesn't do anything for us. And do we want the plains here? Like, we're drawing it next turn anyway. I'm just trying to work out what land we're playing now. They've already seen the Bayou, so I think we just show them the Bayou this turn. And we're not going to be able to cast a Flusterstorm, so we're just going to get killed this turn, I think. We can bounce it out of play, but because it's a Grizzlebrand, they're going to have like a million cards. Maybe we should have put the Teferi on top to protect it, actually. That would have probably been a little bit smarter. Not that we're necessarily going to beat a Grizzlebrand here. Because we could have hidden the Teferi so we can bounce it out of play next turn, but our opponent is going to draw 14 cards and most likely reanimate something else. And we'd be trying to win with just a Teferi and... yeah, so they're going to take our Teferi, I would suspect. If this was not a Bayou, if this was a blue land, we'd be able to counterspell that turn. Sure, they took the Teferi. So we could have hidden the Teferi and we would have been able to draw through our Brainstorm pile with the Teferi activation and bounce this out of play. But our opponent is almost certainly going to deploy another threat this turn. Still would have been cleaner to hide this though. Dark Ritual. A Doughty Voidwalker. Okay, that's not that scary. Thoughtseize. Sure. Stripping our hand. I think we can pack this one in. I think we're dead. Sure. So the sideboard for the deck was trying to hedge more towards Delver than Reanimator. But sometimes you're going to run into Reanimator and your sideboard cards aren't necessarily going to be good enough. Also, our mana base hurt us a little bit there. But I think Reanimator, when it's not having to worry about ley lines and stuff, when it's just trying to discard your hand and make guys, I think is very, very strong. And we sort of showed how having bits of permission don't really necessarily work. Obviously, if this Flusterstorm was a spell we could have cast, we would have been in better shape. Alright, let's go on to the second round. Okay, we're on the play. We've got a very similar sort of setup to what we had last round. So I think we're supposed to keep this. The only problem is, if we need to use our Force of Will, we have to pitch our Ice-Fang, which we're kind of hoping to do a lot of the work for us. But we have stable mana, so I think we want to keep this. I'd much rather that any of these cards was the Ponder. Snow-covered plains. Okay. Okay, this is much better for us now, because we don't have to pitch our Ice-Fang. Well, we've got a spare Ice-Fang, so things are going to get a lot better if we have to Force of Will this turn. Ancient Tomb. So our opponent looks like they're playing an initiative deck. No play on turn 1 or turn 2 is pretty good for us, though. So if we play out this Windswept Heath, we're going to be out of fetch land, so our Brainstorms are going to be worse. So I think we're supposed to play our Tropical Island. And if we play out a Tundra, if we play out the Trop, and then this can get us a basic if we want it. Play this out, and we can end of turn do the Ice-Fang. Let's see what our opponent offers for us. Cavern of Stars. So we're not countering anything this turn. But we can play the Ice-Fang and steal the initiative. This looks like a Seasoned Dungeoneer. There it is. Sure. Now we're a little bit light on removal here, but if we can find a Teferi, we can bounce this out of play. So we'll crack this end of turn. The Windswept Heath can get us a Bayou if we need it. We probably want a green source because we've got this Eternal Witness in play. So it's probably a Savannah here. So green and blue. Let's make a little snake. A Brainstorm. Okay, this is good. We get a free shuffle off of going into the secret entrance on that. So we start off with a Brainstorm here. I heard you like Teferis. So we're going to be getting a free land in a second anyway. So we'll put back Tundra and Tundra, I think. Now, this could be Solitude worthy. I don't think it is. But they could do that to maintain the initiative. But they were going to get the initiative back anyway. So let's go and get a basic island. And then we go to our main phase. And we play this basic island. And we can deploy an Ice-Fang. We can't block because Seasoned Dungeoneer is going to have protection from creatures. We do have to discard a card here. Honestly, I think it's probably the Painter. Or it could be one of our many Teferis. These at least provide a little bit of a stopgap. Probably a Teferi, right? That's fine. The reason we'd want to keep a Force of Will is so that we can Force of Will something that isn't a human, basically. So a White Plume Adventure or something to rattle through the dungeon. So we're just going to keep trading the initiative backwards and forwards here at this rate, which is going to favour our opponent in a big way because they got to go in first and their creatures are bigger. And this creature in particular is a real problem for us because we can't ever block it. We don't really have removal main deck outside of Painter's Servant Hydroblast combo. But if we can find that, then sure. So they're making a Seasoned Dungeoneer bigger. So we can counter a non-human. And then hopefully draw a Hydroblast. And then blast us out of the way. Steal the initiative. And unless they have a creature that has come into play, gain the initiative on it, we should be able to stabilize a little bit. Swords to Plowshares. Sure. We've got another one, so we don't really care about that. A Plains. So this is going to be a Caves of Chaos Adventurer that can't be countered. Sure, so this is going to put them into trap. So it's going to deal us 5 damage. Put us to 11. I don't think we can come back from this, but Hydroblast would help. A Painter's Servant, sure. Alright, so we can't give this Death Touch because we can't get enough snow permanents into play. We can bounce one of their scary guys out of play, but what does that actually do for us in the long run? We can bounce this out and try and draw a Hydroblast. We want to keep our Windswept Heath. Like, we could set up like Eternal Witness into Brainstorm, but I think we need to act now. So I think we're going to play out this. Play this one out, leaving open blue. So that we can potentially draw the Hydroblast. So we can bounce the Seasoned Dungeoneer out of play. And then Hydroblast the Caves of Chaos Adventurer. We did not draw the Hydroblast. So this can prevent 1 damage. So it's much better for us to just get the initiative here and make a slightly bigger guy. Or we can scry. Maybe we should have scry. Maybe we should have done this first, actually. Let's go Lost Well. Bottom. Yeah, we'd have scried first. We'd have a chance of drawing into the Hydroblast slightly more, actually. Okay, so we're going to take 5 this turn, then they're going to draw a card, and then they're going to throw in the dead 3 because they're going to play that Seasoned Dungeoneer we bounced. I suspect they will just ignore Teferi here because it'd be very weird to waste this damage. And they also need to hit us to get the Undercity back. Palace Jailer. Not sure how we win this game, to be honest. But they have shown us that they are the red-white, possibly the Naya build with the Once Upon a Time in it. So they draw a card from this. They're going to play another uncountable creature. And we need 6 mana to do the full Painter's Servant combo, so we can't quite achieve that now anyway. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I guess if we attack and get stash, the only problem is they have uncounterable Palace Jailer, so we can't get our stash token from attacking here. Not sure quite how we win this one. Alright, back to us. Flooded Strand. So, what can we do? We can bounce the Caves of Chaos Adventurer out. That saves us a turn. So I think we have to play out this Teferi. Keep this one. This lets us bounce the guy that's going to kill us this turn away. So we're only taking 2 damage this turn. Possibly 3. Right? No, they won't be able to get into Forge this turn, I don't think. For 4 damage. So, I think the only way we win this game is by deploying a Painted Servant this turn and drawing Grindstone next turn. We'll name red because we have Hydroblast in our deck. Whoa, those cards look pretty funky, don't they? Okay, so we have an out. Our out is our opponent not having any removal and us drawing the Grindstone next turn. We do have 6 mana available to us as well, so we can actually play the second Painter. So they'll need 2 removal spells. Now, they're drawing 2 cards a turn. They've already got 7 in their hand. All right. So they found a free removal spell there. Sure. We've still got the same out, but they can just kill us with removal. We do have Force of Will to protect that. And we have the Teferi, if they don't attack the Teferi here. So, I think if I were them, I would attack the Teferi this turn. Because they have lethal on the next turn, doesn't change their clock speed, and this means that we can't combo them, and they've already seen that we have Painted Servant in our deck. So the correct attack from our opponent is to kill the Teferi, I believe. Yeah, okay, they've reasoned the same. This also means our opponent has got removal in hand, because we would always go for it next turn if we're dead on board anyway. But, okay, so they're going to go back into the dungeon. Looks like they're playing Caves of Chaos Adventurer. Sure. Message understood. We're very dead on the next turn. We have a route to victory this turn, which is surprising, considering how this game's gone, that we actually have a way that we might be able to win the game here. Otherwise, we can make 2 chump blockers and still take 5. No, we'll take 6 because of the fetch land. So it has to be Grindstone or bust. Can I get lucky one time? Cannot get lucky one time. So we can bounce the Caves of Chaos Adventurer and then play a chump blocker for the Solitude. We're going to get a basic this time, so if we draw an Ice-Fang next turn, we can do something with it. So 1, 2, 3. We'll play this guy out. We'll bounce this guy. Draw a card. An Otawara. Does that change anything? Not really. We need a chump blocker for the Solitude. So the best chump block we probably have is this one, because we still want to be able to try and combo next turn. So green, green, white. Let's play out this Paternal Witness. I think we're looking for the Brainstorm from our ground. That gives us the most looks at finding the combo next turn, if we get another turn, that is. We have to Force of Will to counter here, but if we do, then we die, right? Because we'll go to 4. And our opponent will make their Paris Jailer a 4-power guy. So they'll be attacking us with 2 lethal threats if we Force of Will. Yeah, so they've correctly put it on the Paris Jailer. If they have a removal spell, we lose the game. Now, they might attack Teferi. It's possible. Alright, so we're blocking here. They didn't have a removal spell, so we're not dead this turn. But our Force of Will won't do anything. But our Teferi can. So I don't know if our opponent can... Oh, no, if they play the Seasoned Dungeoneer they've got in hand, they can play it unaccountably. Or this, they go into the trap and we die. Sure. All right. Yeah. They had us coming and going in a multitude of ways there. That matchup felt pretty rough. All right, I'd like a couple of Swords to Plowshares, please. Anything else that looks playable here? Right, the Teferi protecting our combo is actually quite nice. The Leovold stops them getting drawing cards from the Monarch, but a 3/3 body for 3 is really bad against the initiative. It's just too small to matter. So I'm not a big fan of the Leovold. So if we just swap those out for some plows there, maybe we want the... Like, we do have the mana to make some really big prismatic endings. So maybe we're looking at doing some of this. The Force of Wills are either great or terrible, depending on some stuff here. Mainly the amount of caverns they draw. So if we want these three, we'll need to find 3 more spaces. I think the Teferi is pretty good here, truth be told. Not necessarily convinced about trying to lock people out with Mana Maze in this one. This just feels too slow and cute for this sort of matchup. I don't think we're going to be able to assemble a lock when we're under so much pressure. So I think that's probably what comes out here. And I don't think we need anything else. The Force of Vigor is an option to blow up some of their artifact mana. But I don't think it's worth... How many? So we've got 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. No, I don't really... and we got these as well, actually. So we could cut the Mana Maze for 1 Force of Vigor. That's probably fine. Like, the Mana Maze will shine when we get to play against Elves and Storm and stuff. Okay, so... What does this hand do? We make an Ice-Fang on turn 2. We make an Ice-Fang on turn 3. We have an Abrupt Decay for an early play. Like, we could try and mulligan to a Force of Will, but if our opponent has a cavern, that's completely dead. I think having the double snake is probably good enough. We'll play out this Flooded Strand first, just in case our opponent randomly plays some sort of Mages of the Moon effect. At least we can go in. We've already got Force of Vigor, Abrupt Decay anyway, so we probably don't need that, but it doesn't hurt to play out the Strand first. Also notice the Abrupt Decay, the 2 lands we have is Underground Sea and Bayou, I think, are the 2 black lands. So Bayou, if we need the green, so we can't fetch a Bayou off of the Flooded Strand anyway. So the only one we can get off this is Underground Sea, which means we won't have any green mana. So this is probably getting us Tropical Island. Yeah, so they have the Cavern of Souls. So this is the reason why I didn't want to mulligan to a Force of Will. Okay, so we can play this out and pass the turn. So it's going to be, yep, the White Plume. So we can't actually cast our Abrupt Decay anytime soon, unfortunately. But we can play out an Ice-Fang and then play out a second Ice-Fang to chump block with to maintain the initiative. Which isn't great, but it's fine. So we sacrifice this for Tropical Island, as discussed earlier. Green, blue. Let's make a snake. Get ourselves another card. An Ephemerate. That's quite a nice one. So we can block with our Ice-Fang and it won't be a chump block anymore. Oh, wow, that's pretty good too. I think we hold up the Ephemerate as protection for our little guy. What do we need here? Got 2 blue sources, we've got 2 green sources, we've only got 1 white source. We're not really looking to cast white spells at the moment. We need more green mana, I think, or more blue mana, because this is going to effectively a black mana for some of the times we're casting it. So I think I'm going to get the forest here. We're going to fire this off now just in case they have Ephemerates of their own. Very unlikely, but not entirely impossible. So this is black, green. Let's get rid of the guy. And we have an Ephemerate if they try and stop our little Ice-Fang. Okay, this looks like a Seasoned Dungeoneer turn. We could blink our Ice-Fang in the hopes of finding a Force of Will here, which I think is probably worth doing. Now, this can get blown out by Solitude, but I don't think we beat Seasoned Dungeoneer in play, so... Okay, we didn't draw that. There's Scrying there, which is good. Like, we can draw a Source to Plowshares, but obviously we don't have a lot of turns to do that because the Seasoned Dungeoneer kills you very quickly. And it's very hard to interact with. So, in response to this, I'm going to cast this guy. So we want green and blue this way. So doing this one so our one has... So our non-summoning sick one can attack. Okay, so... Let's attack here. Honestly... I don't think we want to scry necessarily because we kind of have the things we want already, to be honest. So I think we're going to forge up our Ice-Fang and represent a clock for our opponent to worry about. So we can play out this Savannah. hold up Ephemerate and Enlightened Tutor. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we need 2 more mana before we can combo our opponent with Painted Servant. If we can find a Teferi is the only thing I would like to find. But because we're going to cast the Enlightened Tutor, using the Scry here is not very useful. Unless we cast the Enlightened Tutor in response. Sure, so they're going to adventure away. So they're going to get back the initiative and make a stash token. Right, they're playing a Lotus Petal. 1, 2, 3, 4 mana, so they can play like the big... what's it called? Chaos Adventurer or another Seasoned Dungeoneer. They could play a Fury if they have them. And that would clean our board out, although we do have the Ephemerate for that. Could just be a Solitude. So if we don't get a Teferi, we want to save the Ephemerate as a way of saving our Painted Servant. Chaos Adventurer. Then we just have to let this happen and get a 4/1 skeleton with Menace. So we cast our Enlightened Tutor, get ourselves a Grindstone. So, what are we doing here? I don't think trapping our opponent is good here, but do we want them to be able to go into Throne of the Dead 3? I think we need to attack them with our Ice-Fang. Now, we don't really have a great choice here, so I think we are just on trapping our opponent. We're not going to win that race. So now I think if we play this out, we have Death Touch on our snakes. I think. No, we still don't have Death Touch, actually. We're still a little bit shy. So what we're doing here is playing out our Grindstone. So next turn we have Painted Servant, Grindstone activation, and Ephemerate mana. And that's how we're trying to win this game. Our Ice-Fang can trade with the Chaos Adventurer right now. And it's got a creature type that can't get counters on from Seasoned Dungeoneer, so they might not attack. I suspect they probably do, and they're just going full aggressive here. Yeah, that makes sense to me. We have a possibility of winning this game. We just need our opponent to have 1 or fewer removal spells. Emiria's Call. So this can block this guy. And we're taking a lot of damage this turn. We are dead on our opponent's next turn, and there's not really much we can do to stop that, unless we draw some removal spells. I think saving the Ephemerate as a protection spell for our guy is better than trying to draw 1 extra card here. We don't have a time to try and deploy a Teferi or something. So they're Throne of the Dead 3-ing. If they have something like a Skyclave Apparition, which is very unlikely, they could blow up our Grindstone. A Solitude. Sure. That's not what this game is about, really. We need our opponent to have not that many removal spells in hand. Okay, so if they play something out here, what we will do is we will cast a Force of Vigor end of turn on the Lotus Petal if they don't have any plays here. Not a great play, but it shuts our opponent off hard cast Solitude. A Hydroblast. Probably not good enough to do anything here. So we need a white mana and everything else is colorless. So we keep a white and a blue mana, and then we don't have enough mana here to do our Hydroblast as well, do we? So it's either the Ephemerate or the Hydroblast. We don't get to do both. I think we have to go for it now. I don't think it's not going to get any better. We need our opponent to die in their draw steps. So let's see what they have. Swords to Plowshares. Let's try and Hydroblast that Swords to Plowshares. Do you have a second removal spell? Touch of the Spirit Realm. So this returns it to the battlefield at end of the next end step. So we just grind them for 2 cards and then we die. Sure. Alright, we're into round 3 now. I had a little bit of a break between this round and last round because MTGO needed maintenance. So we're back a day later recording the rest of this league. So we're on the play. Let's see if we can get into it. Well, this is quite an easy mulligan because we've got no mana. So here we go. This one doesn't have any way of casting our Ponders. If this was a blue source, I would be tempted to keep this. But as it is, we need to mulligan. Okay, so we can cast our Ponder. And then we can do some other stuff. So I think we'll keep these. This does represent the combo. So maybe we're putting back the non-basic land. Or are we just trying to play a Teferi game for a little bit? Maybe we get rid of this and just sort of try and play like a little Bank Control League type game. I think this has to find a basic island. Alright, let's get a Ponder going and fix our upcoming turns. So I like all of these cards in varying degrees. Then we'll put the land on the bottom. Then Ponder, and then the Ice-Fang. We'll not shuffle. We'll draw the Ice-Fang, and then we'll say game. So we've got a couple of cantrips here to smooth out the fact that we mulliganed so hard. Our opponent's played an Island Pass. Oh, sorry, not an island, a Seat of the Synod. I've just not seen his art before. Interesting. So we're probably looking at some sort of 8-cast deck. So we're going to draw the Ponder this turn, and we're going to deploy our Snow-Covered Forest. This will draw us into another mana source that can go and get the white to cast a Teferi for the following turn. Alright, so we'll play out our Forest, and then in our opponent's turn we will flash in an Ice-Fang. Our opponent could be playing regular 8-cast, they could be playing some particularly fruity builds. There's also the Painter 8-cast deck that's been doing alright lately that I think is actually better than regular 8-cast. After I ran a league with 8-cast the other day, it just felt like it lined up quite poorly against what some people are doing at the moment. Alright. I think this is the format where you want to be able to combo people in some way. Okay. Our opponent's turn. And second seat, Anamox Opal. So they have plenty of mana here. A Sigh. Sure. So this is going to be pretty good against our Ice-Fang. They're deploying a Bauble, which is going to get them a Thopter token. So we can permanently take away a Thopter token with Teferi, or we can bounce the Sigh. Neither of these options feel great. Wow, they've just got a load of artifacts here. Okay, so they got a Thought Monitor as well. So this is turn 2 for them. They've got a lot of stuff going on. This looks more like regular 8-cast with the size and things. Let's get this little Ice-Fang in. So maybe we would have been better off just trying to hit and hope with the Enlightened Tutor and trying to dodge a Wasteland. I think it's still right not to keep that opening hand, to keep those in the opening hand, but still. Would I rather have a Teferi or a Leovold? Honestly, I think it's Leovold here, because our opponent's deck is designed to draw a multitude of cards. So we need a black source. And we ideally would like a black-white source, but that's not a thing we can get. So do we want our second green or our second blue? We've already got a green card in hand if we need it, so I think we probably just want the Underground Sea here. Now this could just get Force of Will and we're just going to get buried pretty quick. A bit like this, I think. Okay. Not sure how we win this game, truth be told. We are unlikely to win via anything other than comboing here with Painted Grindstone. So that certainly changed the dynamic a little bit. We're not going to have that many turns to do it because we're getting attacked for, what, 6 this turn and potentially lethal next turn. Yep, so they're drawing so many cards every turn right now. Yeah, okay, they've got a Shadow Spear as well, which they have the mana to equip. Yep, so they got, this is trample, so there's no point blocking here. So block here, it saves us 2 damage in total. This saves us 2 damage in total because this turn and next turn. So I think the best we do here is trade off with a Thopter token. We save 1 this turn, 1 next turn. Pretty sure we're dead though. Okay, so we've got another Leovold, but we've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 points of damage in the air. So I think we have to ponder and hope to find something miraculous that's probably not even in our deck. I don't think this does anything. Painted Servant. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So if we play out the Painted Servant, block the Sigh, we don't die this turn, we can draw Grindstone to win the game next turn. That's the position we put ourselves in. And we want to name red because we've got Pyroblast in our deck, Hydroblast in our deck. Okay, so we have an out. Now, obviously this can go wrong in a multitude of ways for us. Yeah. It doesn't really matter how much power they put in play now because they already have lethal on the following turn. It's more of a case of if they draw into any interaction. So they've only got 1 card in hand now. They've still got the Bauble to crack, so they could still have Force Blue card for our turn. Okay, so this is 3 plus 7 is going to be 10. So we're still not dead here. Puts us to 1, if I can do maths. Yeah, there you go. And then we have to... Okay, so they're sacrificing stuff to try and find a Force of Will, which makes me think our opponent doesn't have it right now, which is good. So we have a chance. Now we have to draw a 2 of in our deck, I think, so not a very high chance. A Windswept Heath. We'll just crack this and kill ourselves. Sure. Okay, so not great. So Force of Vigors are going to be useful here. Abrupt Decay is going to be useful here. We've got some guys that we need to keep off the board. Endurances have got text. So does the Veil of Summer. Prismatic Endings can blow up some stuff as well. But I don't think we win this game without comboing our opponents, realistically. And looking at what we're boarding in, we're probably better off just taking out some of the cute Mana Maze type stuff, really. I don't think we can assemble a lock, realistically. Especially since they have lands that can blow us, that can make massive creatures as well. So sitting behind a Mana Maze isn't really going to do anything for us. The Hydroblasts, I don't think... they're good with Painter, and they pitched a Force. Is that enough? When we could just have, Flusterstorm, if we wanted them. Or we've got a Veil of Summer as well. Endurances, Surging Extractions. All these things have some use. Teferi bouncing tokens is very good. Leovold is very good in this matchup as well. I'm not sure we need to be doing Ephemerate things, because one of these Ephemerates on its own is a pretty bad card. Blinking the Witness is fine, though. I don't have a problem with that. But if we've got these Ephemerates clogging up our hand, we definitely don't want to draw two of them. I think this is more or less where we're going here. Endings can take out construct tokens. Plow can take out construct tokens. It can also take out size and things. Calf Cannoneer is going to be a little bit more challenging for us. But I think this is probably the best we can present. We need to keep our combo pieces in, because I don't think we win this game anyway other than comboing. So I think we'll just submit. Okay. So our opponent doesn't play Wastelandy type stuff as a general rule. So we can keep this one and ponder off the Otawara. We don't have a Force of Will because we're going to need another blue card. But we're probably going to be using the Force of Will later to force something through. Our opponent's mulligan to 6 cards. So we're looking for Painted Servant. We're looking for ways of setting up our mana going forwards. Do we take... I like the Tropical Island and I like the Ice-Fang here. But I don't like the fact that I'm going to have to go through the second Grindstone. Although we might be able to use the first Grindstone as a Force of Will bait. So we can put the Grindstone on the top, then the Trop, and then this, and then we've got our Force set up as well. And then maybe we can get a bit of Ice-Fang magic going next turn, start blinking it to draw through the cards there. It's a question of whether or not we throw out the Grindstone first. Okay, a Chalice. That's fine. We have an Abrupt Decay for that already. So... I don't think we showed our opponent white mana last turn, so it's better to play the Trop here. We can't Abrupt Decay the Chalice yet, but another Chalice for 1. Okay, I get it. We're not casting 1-drops here. We have Force of Vigors and things in our deck anyway. And if our opponent's gone for this sort of hand, then maybe just deploying some little guys here. And we got Teferis that can bounce these as well. So we've got a lot of options. This is the first fresh card after that Ponder. A Brainstorm. It's a very good card, just not right now. So, the difficulty in finding black mana in this deck feels like it's coming back to bite us again. Okay, our opponent just had a we're going to chalice you and hope that does stuff hand. So with this deck, you're usually playing out your lands anyway, I think, because you want to have 6 mana to play your combo out in 1 turn. Now we're just on the Force of Willing around. We can pitch Brainstorm the Force of Will if we want. If we draw another land, we can high cast Force of Will. This can go and get Underground Sea, so we can blow up a Chalice, but they have 2, so that doesn't really get us anywhere. But we've got high cast Force of Will, and we've got the world's slowest clock, so let's see how we do. If we can find a Teferi, we can blow one of these end of turn and then bounce the other with Teferi and then do a flurry of 1-drops. A Thought Monitor. I'm going to say no to this. Hold on, let's crack this first. So this wants to get us... We've got 2 green, we've got loads of blue, so I think we probably still want the... we get the Underground Sea here, right? That gives us our black mana. We can't get a Bayou anyway. Sure. Okay, so no cards for them. Misty Rainforest. Play this. So now we have our 6 mana. So if we can get rid of these and draw our pieces, we can play and deploy our combo in 1 turn. We need to get rid of their Chalices and throw some Brainstorms out, or we need to draw a Force of Vigor would be the better option. Right, so they can have a Mox and a Thought Monitor. We cannot counter this one. Our Ice-Fang is also not going to be getting Death Touch anytime soon. I guess if we draw a basic land or a fetch land, we can give it Death Touch now, but Not sure how useful that is. Okay, so we have our combo ready to go. But we have to get through both of these chalices because it's just going to hit our Grindstone. So I think we're supposed to keep the Painted Servant in hand instead of exposing it to things like this member that our opponent probably has brought in. Especially if they're not doing anything with the stuff they had before. Makes me think they had something reactive they didn't want to waste on an Ice-Fang. Okay, they got a Psy. So that is a thing we can kill with an Abrupt Decay. But we're kind of priced into not doing that because of wanting to combo off. A Force of Vigor would really help us out here. Force of Will is not the same thing. So by having the Abrupt Decay in, it means that in our hand, it means if we draw into Teferi or the Prismatic Ending, we get to sort of do our combo over the course of a couple of turns because we have to play the Teferi and plus it because they'll just replay the Chalice unless we've got a spare blue card kicking around. So it might just be easier to play it and plus it unless we have the tools for that. But we can always actually Teferi then play the Grindstones out as well actually. But we're gonna need a little bit of help from the top of our deck. And I don't think we can afford to Abrupt Decay the Psy necessarily. Feels like it's gonna be very difficult for us to win the game through these chalices because we can't win the game without a combo in this matchup is what I feel like. Our beatdown plan is very, very anemic compared to what our opponent is doing. So we're just going to get all these Thopters all up in our business. We can Force of Will something. Okay, so they're casting this Pithing Needle into a chalice just to make a guy. If they didn't have chalices, I'd be tempted to counter that because it's just another thing we have to deal with. A Spell Bomb, that's going to get countered by the chalice, but it's just going to make some guys. Stress Bauble. So we'll just take that. If we find another land, we can at least have Death Touch and trade with it along the lines. So we've got draws that keep us doing stuff in this game, but we're just getting outclassed over on the other side of the battlefield right now. Another Brainstorm is probably not the one. Like we can, if we play out a Painted Servant, we can't hardcast a Force of Will. I think we're just supposed to go to discard. Discard this Ephemerate. Okay, so they've got an Ezra Saga. So we're probably dead in 3-ish turns. So if we trade off with this, I think we need to hold out just in case we get Death Touch on our guy so we can prevent slightly more damage going forwards. But I don't think we get to make that choice next turn. I think if we don't draw another way of giving another snow permanent, then we have to just let this trade. Okay, so this is what we've been holding out for. So we need to cast this for 2 mana on this. So we're going to pay white and blue. So this way it dodges the chalice because we're paying 2 mana for it. And then we're going to Abrupt Decay this one. So we'll use black and green. So then we're going to play a Grindstone, which is going to get counterspelled. And then we're going to play another Grindstone. That one didn't get counterspelled. That's very interesting to me. Let's crack this. Let's get a blue source. Probably just want the Tropical Island or a Tundra. Probably a Tropical Island. So we can Brainstorm now and see if we can hit another land drop. Or we can just keep it as a reactive Brainstorm. Or we can play the second Grindstone. I don't think that's necessary. I think we'd rather have a Brainstorm to possibly find a bit more protection. So we need to survive this turn and then we're going to try and combo them out next turn. Okay, another Ezra Saga. So they're definitely telling us that they're going to be all up in our business in the very near future. This time we just block the most damage. Like we're dead if we don't win our next turn anyway, so. Chalice of the Void for 2. Let's cast a Brainstorm first. Okay. So we can put this on top and this on top. And is it better to Force of Will here or use a Prismatic Ending? I think it's better to use the Prismatic Ending. Right? Wait, hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 1 mana for the Prismatic Ending, 2 mana for the Painted Servant, 3 mana for activation. Okay, yeah. So we can do that. So we can Prismatic Ending this and then Force of Will back up on our guy. The reason I don't want to use the Force of Will on this is because the Force of Will can hit a removal spell, which the Prismatic Ending can't. So it's the most ways of playing around things. So we pay white, Cast this, targeting this. Okay, so let's play out Painted Servant. We'll name red. We will activate this now. Our opponent's tapped out, so I think it's better to do it now rather than their upkeep. Dismember. Let's try and counterspell that Dismember. So this is the way we try to play around. If they got a Force of Will here or another Dismember, then we just lose. Sure, we just lose. Alright. Deck didn't feel amazing there. We did mulligan pretty hard in the first game, but I feel our opponent just gets to see way more cards than we do, and Mana Maze is pretty bad when they're just spamming colourless spells. Like, yeah, if you have Mana Maze and Painted Servant, you can stop them doing that, but by that time they're going to have a massive board of stuff anyway and probably be able to beat you. And they can also just use Urza Saga tokens, so you can't even lock them very effectively if you assemble all the moving pieces. So, yeah, still in desperate search for this win with this deck, but we're going to keep going and see how we do. Island Ponder. I'm going to keep this. We've got a Force of Will and an Emergency. Underground Sea. That usually says unfair deck. Preordained, that definitely says unfair decks. This could be Ad Nauseam Tendrils or Doomsday are the most likely candidates in my opinion. It could be one of these, the black-blue Fort Lush deck I've seen. Okay. Misty Rainforest, please. And then we'll go and get ourselves a basic island. And we'll cast a Ponder. And we can Brainstorm Ponder next turn. Brainstorm Fetchland next turn as well. Okay, so I like all of these cards in varying ways, shapes, and forms. So we have a Win Condition. We have a nice way of locking out counterspells from our opponent. We have a way of digging into our deck. So I think we're probably putting Painter, Teferi, Ice-Fang. So next turn we can use the Savannah to cast the Ice-Fang to make sure we've drawn all of those cards that we wanted. And then we can do a Brainstorm Fetchland and the turn after with a fresh pile, or we can Teferi depending on what the board looks like at the time. A Brainstorm, sure. And they got a Fetchland to make it a perfect Brainstorm. There we go. And no other follow-up. So they're just sculpting for something. So this makes me think more towards the Doomsday line, but I could be wrong. So if we play out a Savannah, this will cast our Ice-Fang without shuffling away the paint we want on top of our deck, so we can actually win the game with it later. Sure. Brainstorm? Yep. This is a Doomsday matchup. The Mana Maze is not a terrible card to have in our deck. It does stop them being able to Dark Ritual Doomsday if we can get the Mana Maze down first. It also stops them doing multiple cantrips in a turn, and it can stop some of their Doomsday pile lines. Marsh Flats. Okay. Just another Underground Sea. And a Ponder. Sure. Now we're going to play a Snake at end of turn. Draw the Painted Servant on top of our deck. I doubt they're going to interact with this Snake in any meaningful way. Our opponent doesn't look like they're a deck that cares about the combat step, apart from when it's hitting them, really. Okay, so now we get a turn. So we're going to Brainstorm. Mana Maze is interesting to me. We've got a lot of lands that we don't really want here, so I'm going to put back the Boseiju, and we'll put back the Trop. We'll play out Fetch Land. We'll crack this for blue source. We could get the Underground Sea in case we draw a Leovold. That's probably good, although we have the Windswept Heath to get a Bayou, so it's better probably just to get the best mana we can have now, which I think is probably just a Tundra. And then we'll cast Mana Maze. Mana Maze doesn't stop their combo necessarily, because if they are Doomsday, they can just cycle, which ignores Mana Maze, and then the only spell they cast is the Thassa's Oracle. It does mean that if we have a counter spell, it's a hard counter for the Thassa's Oracle, though. Alright, we've got a Daze on the Mana Maze. Interesting. I don't think we pitch a force for this. I think we just let that go and save our force for our opponent's next turn. In case we try and resolve a Doomsday or something. So we could have played the Teferi that turn, but I think getting our Brainstorm value there was essential. Because we're looking for a way of winning the game. Alright, so here is the Doomsday. So let's pitch. Is it the Teferi or is it the Brainstorm? I think it's probably the Teferi that goes. The Brainstorm can find us a lot more action. We've got two cards we don't mind shuffling back. Now, if they have a way of countering our Force of Will, then they just get to make their pile. Sure, so they're going to get to make a Doomsday pile here. Okay, it didn't take them particularly long to make the pile, which doesn't bode well for us. So we need to find something with this Brainstorm, which is the reason why we kept it. Let's Brainstorm. We have Pyroblast and Painter, so that's a thing that we can do. So I think we're okay to put those away. We don't really want to keep drawing these lands, so I think we put back Snow-Covered Forest. We don't really want to show them the Bayou for this game, if we can avoid it. So we put these two back, and we'll play out a fetch land. We'll shuffle away. We'll go get ourselves probably a Trop this time. The Death Touch isn't going to be relevant here. Go to attacks, get our 1 point of damage in, and second main phase we'll play out Painter's Servant and hold up the Hydroblast. We'll name red. So we can counter one spell this turn. However, they can just cycle through their whole deck. The other option we had there was to Hydroblast one of their lands, but the fact is that they would still have 2 mana, so that doesn't really help us out. So we're going to hit any options we get here. So this is probably a deep analysis line, I would imagine. So we'll let this resolve, and then we'll Hydroblast anything that draws them cards this turn. Like, we've quite clearly telegraphed we have a Hydroblast. But the thing we need to do is Hydroblast anything that gets them through their pile quicker, rather than the mana they have off the Lion's Eye Diamond. I feel that might have even been a bait spell. Because as it stands, they kill us in 4 turns. But every card they get into their library reduces that clock. Now, they might have put the Thassa's Oracle 1 up from the bottom. You could sometimes even put it 2 up from the bottom as well. So there's a lot of permutations of how they might be able to kill us here. A Brainstorm. So this is something that we immediately Hydroblast. Like I said, we hit anything that lets them draw cards. Okay, they have a deep analysis. Sure. So if they have a Thassa's Oracle in hand, they can play it and win the game now. Okay, so they've got 1 card left in their library. Age of Autumn. Yep, so they've got a Thassa's Oracle they're just going to deploy now. And they've got a Cavern of Souls to do it with as well. We are done there. Let's go to sideboarding. So, Flusterstorm feels like a good one. Sacred Extraction isn't great, but it can mess with their pile slightly. And if you maybe counter the first Doomsday and Sacred Extract it, then that's pretty good. We don't know if they're playing a Shouldered Duke in the sideboard. That's sort of fallen out of favour a lot lately, so I don't think that's where we're at. Veil of Summer is good to defend against protection. Carpet Flowers is going to be generating a reasonable amount of mana for us, potentially. Endurance messes with our opponent's pile. These are all things we can consider. The Leovold is pretty good. Grindstone messes with opponent's piles, so I like that. I don't think we're going to have time to be doing Enlightened Tutor, Ephemerate type stuff. So that's quite an easy cut for me. I think that's a little bit too cute. The Teferi is going to be good here. The Mana Maze is actually okay in this matchup, which it hasn't really felt like in previous matchups. I don't think we're going to necessarily have time for things like Eternal Witnesses either. I think we're going to be better off having these sorts of things in. We still need 2 more cuts if we want all of these. So the Ice-Fang pitches to our Force of Wills and our Endurances, but we don't really... I don't think we really need that, to be honest, because this isn't really going to be clocking, and it doesn't really do anything in combat either. I'm almost tempted to play the Witnesses over them, just because the Witnesses also draw us a card, but it might be like a Brainstorm or a Flusterstorm or something. And that's probably going to be better than a random card most of the time. Is that true? They are more blue cards is the only thing. I'd rather have Witnesses or Ice-Fangs. Ice-Fangs are a slightly earlier play, so they can draw us into our 3-drops. I think it's better to keep the Ice-Fangs on that logic. Right, so we are very much the control in this matchup. We need to kind of get places. This hand doesn't really do anything. Like Leovold on turn 3 is too slow. The Hydroblast doesn't interact without us having a Painter's Servant in play. So I think we just have to mulligan this one. Okay, so we have a little bit of interaction here. I think we can keep this. The Grindstone can mess with our opponent a little bit as well. So we can Surgical Extract to shuffle their pile and then Grindstone it away. Because the one thing is, it's sometimes very hard to Grindstone a Doomsday player if they know what they're doing. They can set a pile that can beat 1 Grindstone activation usually. Because they play 2 Thassa's Oracle, they put them in different places, and then they can fill the middle out with the right sort of stuff. Okay, so we don't really have any interaction outside of this Surgical. A Dark Ritual. Okay, so our opponent's casting Doomsday this turn. Alright, our opponent, not only have they done their pile, but they've got a Brainstorm to go with it. So we're going to fire off this Surgical Extraction to shuffle their pile, because if they're casting a Brainstorm now, it means they have to win if this resolves. Okay, so I have a Thassa's Oracle in hand already. And this is their pile. Okay. So if they draw any 3 of these, they can still win the game. Okay, yeah, so we just lose here. We left the Doomsday in the graveyard for the purposes of if we have an Endurance, it's more cards to shuffle in. But I don't think we're getting another turn here. Okay, we are getting another turn. Okay. So we can't really do a Grindstone thing unless we're getting rid of all the mana that our opponent has. But we can't do a Grindstone yet anyway because we don't have 3 mana. So we just have to play this out and hope that our opponent can't win this turn. And then maybe we can Grindstone and take out their Lion's Eye Diamond. Because basically their pile was set up to use Lion's Eye Diamond to make mana, and then you cantrip with like a discard with a Cycler, so that you then can spend that mana. So you put the cycle on the stack, then you crack your LED. So you get your mana, and then you draw your card, and then it's the Thassa's Oracle, and you play it. There's a Street Wraith. Okay, we managed to win. Interesting. That means that the order that we shuffled their things in meant that they weren't able to win. Alright, so we cheesed the win. Well, let's just try and do it again, I guess. Okay, so we don't really have the mana we need to play this game, so we should mulligan. We have a Force of Will. This Hydroblast feels pretty bad. The Mana Maze is okay, though. The Hydroblast is the blue card for Force of Will, is what it is. Do we want to keep our Savannah, or do we just want to keep our fetch lands? I think we're probably just keeping our fetch lands. Put the Savannah back. The Otawara might have text at some point, so we'll keep that just in case. Like for the purposes of, I don't know, if they have a Lion's Eye Diamond, I might be able to interact with it at some point at the right time. It's very unlikely to come up, but it's pretty much free for us to keep it in this matchup. So there we go. Okay, what is this going to be? A Brainstorm. All right. Not a turn 1 Doomsday unless they're going to drop a Petal. Oh no, there's the Petal. But they're not doing anything with it just yet. Okay. A Brainstorm of our very own. So let's play out our Misty Rainforest. And we will pass. We can Brainstorm on our opponent's turn. Because we already have the blue card for Force of Will, the Brainstorm is just trying to find us better things. We will Brainstorm on our opponent's turn because we want to drop the Mana Maze next turn. Yep, Street Wraith. Another Street Wraith. Okay. In our end step, we're going to get one of our... We're going to get the Underground Sea here, just to give our opponent more things to think about. And this one will get a Trop. Or a Tundra. Am I supposed to get Tundra, actually? Probably am supposed to get Tundra, aren't I? Instead of being cute with the Underground Sea. Let's get the Tundra. Okay, we're just looking for more interaction. Okay, these are all forms of interaction that I would like to have. We're not playing the Painted Servant this turn. Are we playing the Veil of Summer this turn? Probably not. I think we're just playing the Mana Maze. We can try and play the Carpet. If the Carpet gets countered, then that doesn't really help us out, does it? And we also have to shuffle to play the Carpet. So I think we're putting Painter... No, is that right? Painter we can play on the 3rd turn. Okay, yeah. So put these back. And then we'll draw Veil and play Mana Maze off the Otawara. It means that our Hydroblast might become a real card soon. This could get dazed. Sure. I'm not going to fight over this. The Force of Will and the Veil of Summer together is quite a strong package to stop them producing anything in subsequent turns. There's the Underground Sea that we knew about. There's the Lotus Petal. So this could be a Thoughtseize into Doomsday. Oh, this is like a Teferi. Oh no, it's just a deep analysis. Yeah, that's fine. They spent a lot of resources on that. I don't mind. It's not the thing we have to counter, right? So this turn we got some choices here. We can play out the Carpet of Flowers this turn. which I think is probably right. I'm going to get a drop for this. Feels like we've got a little bit of time because our opponent's sort of dwindling around. So then we go to our second main phase, and then we use the carpet mana to deploy a painter. And we name red with it, I think. Or do we? Do we name red? If we name blue, then we can pitch more things to Force of Will. And also our Veil of Summer can counter... It's going to be countering any spells anyway, is the thing, though. So I think we are probably supposed to name. If we name red, our Hydroblast functions this turn as a spell, but we don't have Force of Will. I think that's probably fine, though. Our deck is designed for it to name red, so we should probably just name the red here. So we've got Hydroblast up, or Force of Will, but not both. Now, our 1-3 is going to take a long time to end this game. But our opponent probably doesn't have a huge amount of ways of interacting with it, at least. A Dark Confidant. Okay, we can let that resolve. We can Hydroblast that end step if we want to anyway. I don't even think it's necessary. Oh, wowzers. Okay, that's changed the dynamic slightly. Oh, this is an interesting thing. So our opponent's got not a lot of cards in hand here. So let's play... What manas we want here? We don't have a lot of green here. Let's just do green. And cast this. So we've got a lot of backup here. Edge of Autumn. So they're sacrificing their Edge of Autumn. They're sacrificing their land to Edge of Autumn. We might actually win this one. We did win this one. Wowzers. We've got a win on the board. This is basically the only match we've played where Mana Maze does anything. It just got dazed both times, which is fine. But if it got to stick and play, it would have done something. But yeah, we actually got one on the board there. Pretty happy about that. Let's go on to the final round, see if we can scrape a 2-3 and get a little bit of our play points back. Alright, we have an Island Ponder start. We have both parts of our combo. We're just looking for mana with double cantrips and a Force of Will to keep going. I think we can keep this. Even though it's a one-lander, I think we can get there with it. We're probably pitching the Leovold. Vault of Whispers into Dark Ritual. This is probably the Tony Scapone Mono Black Storm deck. Am I supposed to counterspell this Dark Ritual? They just Thoughtseize us. I think we're supposed to counter the Dark Ritual here. Oh, I pitched the Brainstorm instead of the Leovold. Oops. Alright. Aligns our Diamond. Sure. A Lotus Petal. A Chromox. I think the last card in their hand is a Wishclaw Talisman. Thassa's Oracle. Okay. This is an interesting deck. Okay, we're getting our hand back anyway. Sure. We have an unplayable hand. Not really where I want it to be. Okay, a turn 1 combo deck. Now, Mana Maze can be useful in this matchup if we ever get to turn 2. Cabal Ritual. Sure. I don't know how much permission our opponent's going to have here. Disruption. Could be getting Thoughtseized at any point. But we shall see. Spoils of the Vault. Wowzers. I think we want to counterspell this. And we're probably looking at the Ice-Fang's the least useful card in our hand, I think. This game isn't really about that. Burning Wish. Sure. So this is just a Lethal Tendrils now. That'll do. Okay. So, Flusterstorms. These feel good. Surging Extraction and Endurances have text but aren't great. Force of Vigor, if they have to do lines where they pass a turn, is okay. Veil of Summer can buy us a turn. I don't think Abrupt Decay is worth using here. I think we're probably too slow to be doing Eternal Witnessy, Ephemerate type stuff. And the Ice-Fangs are pretty bad in this matchup. I think we just have to slow our opponent down enough. Prismatic Ending can blow up stuff if they pass the turn. And they might have an Urza Saga Duke in there. So I'm quite tempted to play these over the Ice-Fangs. So we've sort of just morphed into bank control with Mana Maze, more or less, and this Leovold. We do still have a combo in there, so we can maybe just pull out a win. So we'll submit like this. Okay, so we have 2 bits of interaction. We have a Teferi as well. I think this is pretty decent. We'll keep this one. We have a Boseiju that can also be used to blow up an artifact they leave floating around. Like sometimes these sorts of decks will play a Wishclaw Talisman and pass, so we can detonate that. Our opponent's mulligan to 6 cards. Now, I don't super like our chances, but we do actually have chances with this hand. think we play the Tropical Island, it makes our opponent think about Veil of Summer. If we play the Tundra, they're probably not thinking about Silence or anything like that. It's probably just, okay, there's a deck that normally has Swords to Plowshares in. A Gemstone Mine into a Thoughtseize. I think this is worth protecting our information with. If our opponent doesn't know what they're playing around, that's pretty beneficial for us. And they were going to take one of our counter spells anyway. Okay, so they got Lion's Eye Diamond. We have to assume they don't have another piece of interaction here. Oh, I might be wrong on that one. Spoils of the Vault with 1 card. Okay. We just get to hit this one. And they have no mana floating over. Sure. Back to us. So we can blow up this Lion's Eye Diamond on this turn cycle. Or we can play a Mana Maze. I think we'll play a Mana Maze. So, blue, blue. Finally finding matchups where the Mana Maze has text. Alright. So we can either play a Teferi and draw a card, or we can Boseiju our opponent. We can Boseiju their Lion's Eye Diamond here. Question is, if we're not drawing a card this turn, when are we going to be doing... Or is it fine as is? Interesting. Okay. So we've seen there a Burning Wish deck, so I want to hold up the Hydroblast. Or at then end of turn we can just Boseiju the Lion's Eye Diamond if they didn't have anything. The Lion's Eye Diamond for me is scarier than the Mox Opal. Goodbye. So they will get a basic land off this. I have to imagine they have a swamp in their deck. They do not. Oh, wow. Okay, that went very well for us. So we can either hold up Hydroblast or we can Teferi draw a card. Considering our opponent's got so low resources, this feels like the turn that we're supposed to tap out and do something. Choose up to. We're not going to bother bouncing the Mox Opal because that would give them a storm count here. So drew another Teferi. Not really what we wanted. But maybe we can tick this up and down a few times and draw some cards. Okay, our opponent's just conceded there because they didn't have anything going on. So our plan more or less worked. We just need to do that again on the draw. Not necessarily easy, but we'll give it a go. The Enlightened Tutor is something that can also find a Mana Maze, which is potentially something we want. Maybe that's worth it over an Endurance. So this hand doesn't actually cast our blue spells. So I don't think we can keep this one. Like, we can maybe Force of Will something and then Prismatic Ending. But then where are we going? We're going to need to find a blue source at some point. But maybe Force of Will plus Prismatic Ending for anything they put out is good enough. Have they mulliganed? They've begun the game with 7 cards in hand. Yikes. Like, we're not going to find a double Force of Will hand, are we? I think we can keep this one, but it's probably going to end up with us drawing 7 cards off of an Echo of Eons this turn anyway. We may as well keep the Force of Will plus something. No play. Interesting. See, that's rather unfortunate for us. We will play out the Forest to represent Veil of Summer. A Vault of Whispers. A Thoughtseize. So they are going to see that the coast is clear here. Is it worth us pitching a Force of Will? I think it probably is here. And is it Hydroblast or is it Teferi? It's probably Teferi here. The Hydroblast can counter Burning Wish. Right Flame. We're probably just dead here. Manamorphose. Our opponent's kind of got like a mishmash of all sorts of different stormy pieces from over the years. Like Spoils of the Vault and Manamorphose. Okay, so it's Relay. Empty the Warrens. Echo of Eons. Echo of Eons in exile is pretty good for us. Because that means they can't put it into their graveyard easily. Okay, so now we have a blue source. We have a choice. Do we hold up our Hydroblast or do we go Pondering? I think what we're supposed to do here... it's a shame that we played this Forest out now because we can't Prismatic Ending the Mox. So they're going to have 3 mana, 4 mana next turn. I honestly think we're supposed to Prismatic Ending the Mox here, so I'm going to get ourselves a Tundra. The Mox Opal will still tap for mana, but we've found a way of restricting our opponent's mana. Empty the Warrens won't be that large. Right, so there's the Mox and the City of Brass are gone. So this can just play and Empty the Warrens for a little bit. They can play the Chrome Mox for Storm as well, but we've got a reasonable life total to work with here. And we can play Painted Servant, Hydroblast next turn if we need to. Just, yeah, okay. So they didn't even play the Chrome Mox. That's interesting to me. They could have got one more Storm to get more Goblins. It's just a very small Empty the Warrens. This will not beat a 1-3. Interesting. Okay. A Windswept Heath. I think this turn we are just playing out Painter. And we'll name Red for the purposes of Hydroblast. And we'll hold up our Hydroblast. Next turn we can Ponder and then fetch land to Hydroblast. So their 1/1s will not win them the game this way. A Burning Wish. This is something that we want to be counterspelling. So none of these cards are relevant anymore. So they can. Alright. This is the turn we Ponder. What do we find? A Ponder that we would like, and then the others that can just get shuffled away. So put this on top. Shuffle your library. No. Then we play our fetch land. We crack this for a tropical island. Or do we want a Bayou? No, we need a blue source to cast this Ponder, don't we? We can worry about the Leovold later. So then we can Ponder. Okay, so we have a Leovold that we can't cast, which is a recurring theme I've noticed. We have a Teferi, which can just draw us a card here, and a Painted Servant that we don't really need. I think we are just supposed to shuffle this, to be honest. Like, because we don't have black mana, this Leovold is looking really bad. So I think we'll just shuffle and draw a fresh one. That's not terrible. We are still on defense with the old Painted Servant, but we've got a Veil of Summer, so we can't be Tendrils this turn cycle. And we've got a Force of Will for next turn. Okay, so they got a Dark Ritual into, this is an Ad Nauseam, an Echo of Eons. I will cast this now. We might find a blue card to counterspell the Echo of Eons here. We did. And even if we didn't, we'd at least be able to use Force of Wills and stuff and not be discarded if we drew a new 7. And Leovold, ugh. Sure. This guy is, this feels, I don't think Leovold should be in this deck personally. I think maybe we should have a Nasa and just have better mana. I think people are very disrespectful about what you can do with mana bases in Legacy sometimes. Alright, let's draw some cards. We have a Mana Maze if we get another turn. They played a land. They've got 4 mana available. So you have to imagine they've got something they can do with their hands. It's like, oh no, maybe not. Maybe they want to get their attacks in first. Maybe they need to get us to like 12 for the purposes of Tendrils or something. A Dark Ritual. Yep. A Mox Opal. A Galvanic Relay. Okay, that's not too terrible for us. Means we probably get to see another turn. An Empty the Warrens. Another Empty the Warrens. A Lion's Eye Diamond. Gemstone Mine. And a Mana Morpho. So they can make quite a lot of goblins next turn. However, we have a Mana Maze. Oh, they got a second Galvanic Relay. Okay. Well, they're really going to hate this Mana Maze we're about to play. And every spell will be red as well. So if we draw a Brainstorm, we can just cast it in their upkeep and stop them getting access to any of these cards. If we draw at any instant. Possibly looking okay. They still got more stuff. Have they got a Thoughtseize here? Oh, okay. That's probably game. What they've got in their exile wins them the game here. So they take the Mana Maze. Yeah. So we need to ponder into a Mana Maze here. Or we can just naturally draw it. Sure. So I think we go... Actually, no. We probably want to ponder first, right? I would like an Enlightened Tutor in the near future, to be honest. Because that gives us a win very soon. So I think we put back this. And Force of Vigor. And then this. We'll not shuffle. So we have the win next turn. Do we care about shuffling away at the top of our library? Probably doesn't hurt, does it? I think we just play out this Mana Maze. Apologise to our opponent for getting lucky. And yeah, so we have the kill next turn. So we might be able to get a second win on the board. Now our opponent only gets to cast 1 spell this turn. Maybe we should have cast the Enlightened Tutor in the upkeep to stop them casting any spells this turn. Now, if they have a removal spell that removes the Mana Maze, which seems unlikely in their red-black deck. But they... Okay, let's see what their 1 spell for the turn is. They might just... Okay, they're just making some guys. We made the mistake of not casting Enlightened Tutor, actually. That's entirely my bad there. We've given them an extra turn here because we could have cast Enlightened Tutor in their upkeep. Now we can't cast it because they've cast a spell. That's very foolish of me. Apologies for people watching that. Alright, we should still be able to win it next turn. Well, not on our next turn, but on the next turn that we get. Yeah. Okay, well, I've made a misstep there, but we are still fine. A Force of Vigor, which we can just straight up cast on some of their lands here, if we want to. I think we take out these 2 artifacts. So green, green, 1, 1. That shouldn't really make much of a difference. Pass a turn, and then on our opponent's upkeep, we will cast this. We'll put a Grindstone on top of our library. Our opponent cannot cast any spells. They hit us for 2. So then we draw our Grindstone. If our opponent has an instant, they can stop us from doing that. They do have an instant. Okay. Still more play to this game. So we don't get to cast any spells, so we just pass the turn. We keep lands in hand for the purposes of Brainstorm here. We'd like to cast a Brainstorm on our opponent's turn if things go horribly wrong and they keep having chance. So none of these cards do anything right now. They're Thought Seizing us, which is going to get rid of our Grindstone. Sure. We only have 1 more Grindstone left in our deck. Can't imagine our opponent's got a lot of win conditions left that they can use under a Mana Maze. Surgical Extraction. Just play out our Painted Servant. We will name Red. We'll go to attacks. We can Surgical Extract them this turn if we want to, but I honestly don't even know if it's worth doing right now. I'd rather save it for when they've got more cards in hand and have more options for what they can play on the turn. Okay, so they're just playing a Chrome Mox for their turn. That's fine. What are they exiling? A Cabal Ritual. Makes sense. A Ponder. I will cast a Ponder. I like the other Ponder. Counter spells don't actually work at the moment because of Mana Maze. So, shuffle your library, no. So we'll draw this. We'll crack this. We're going to get ourselves a Bayou, I think. And then we'll pass the turn. Our opponent's only got 1 card in hand, so I don't really feel it's necessary to Surgical Extract in their turn. What would we even be Surgical Extracting there? Like maybe we should be extracting something like Chant or Empty the Warrens, but there's so many Empty the Warrens already gone. Okay, they did have another Empty the Warrens. Sure. So this one will give them guys, so I can't attack anymore because they can triple block, or I can attack and lose 1 guy. If we didn't draw that Mana Maze off the top that turn, we would have lost this game by now. Alright, so let's have a look at the top cards of our library. A Leovold will be nice. Hydroblast is pretty nice as well. We get to blow stuff up. But do I want all of these cards? Probably not. We don't want another Painter. Do we want a Leovold here? Leovold means that if they target us with anything, we get to draw cards. That seems alright to me. So I think we can put that one on top and the Hydroblast. Not shuffle our library, get the Hydroblast out, play this. Go to our opponent's turn, and then Hydroblast. Probably one of their guys. This means they can't play any spells the rest of the turn. Well, they've got loads of mana, so I don't think hitting the mana's right. Having less guys so we can attack through makes sense to me. So Misty Rainforest can get an Underground Sea so we can cast the Leovold for actual... the Surgical Extraction for mana. So we want black, green, blue. Cast this guy. Go to attacks. Attack with 2 guys. Okay, they're packing it in. So we won the match. We ended up with a 2-3. Let's have a little chat about the deck. So obviously a 2-3 isn't a great record. And I definitely, would have to get more used to this deck to optimize playing it. But there are some things in this deck that I just don't understand why they're necessary in the deck. So Leovold forcing us into a 4th color when we're trying to get snow cover permanents for our Ice-Fang. This feels very, very not free. And a lot of times we were having to shuffle it away or whatever, and it just didn't feel like it did anything for the most part. A Narset would be easier to cast, would have the same thing of stopping your opponent drawing lots of cards, which is the main thing that Leovold really does, as well as digging you into a Grindstone or a Mana Maze. So I think that's just a better choice because you're going to end up with a better mana base that's going to be more easy to hit your snow cover permanence count. And you're still going to have the useful text on Leovold. It's not as if Leovold dodges Pyroblast or anything either because it's still a blue card. So I think that would be an upgrade that I would look at taking. But what I will say is that the Mana Maze as a card in the meta right now isn't looking too good to me. So when you have decks like Delver, for example, they play some stuff under the Mana Maze, and then they can play one spell on their turn and one spell on your turn, and still be doing 2 spells a cycle and doing relatively well. When you have decks like Initiative, they play 1 spell a turn anyway for the most part. Maybe the first turn they'll play a mana rock of like a Mox Diamond or Chrome Mox or Lotus Petal or whatever. But that's before you get the Mana Maze down. So once the Mana Maze is down, they're playing 1 spell a turn. That 1 spell is just better than any individual 1 spell in our entire deck. So that's going to be an absolute nightmare to try and beat. Now, Mana Maze does come into its own in a few matchups for sure. So, for example, Storm matchups, I think it's okay against Doomsday. I don't think it's amazing, but I think it's fine against Doomsday. But against the like combo-y type decks that are trying to string together a bunch of spells, so all the various Storm variants, whether that's Epic Gamble or whatever, it's pretty good. Now, there is an issue that you have to get to 2 mana and play it first, which isn't always doable against those decks, because you're going to get your hand Echo of Eons and stuff, but I think this is totally a fine card for those matchups. What it does mean in some matchups, though, is if your opponent plays a spell, it's uncounterable, because let's say they play a blue spell, you can't force of will that spell at any point. Or if you've got Painter in play, any spell they cast, whether it's Doomsday or whatever, is going to be uncounterable, which is going to be a real issue for you. So basically, what I'm saying, for me, I think Mana Maze is a sideboard card rather than a main deck card. And we boarded it out a fair bit, and I don't think trying to assemble this lock is something you need to do in Legacy right now. The format is so fast and aggressive that you need to be coping with what's happening on the first few turns of the game and getting that under control, rather than trying to assemble a multi-piece lock. That's not really where the format is at right now, in my opinion. And the fact that control decks have completely fallen off shows that, you know, gaining control of the game in the sort of mid to late game isn't always what you want to be doing, because you have to get through the early turns. Aside from that, the Ice-Fangs, because they never really get Death Touch in this deck because of our mana base, I don't think they're very good. Now, if we've made the little fix with the Nasa and had a bit more ability to fetch snow-covered lands, I think the Ice-Fangs look a little bit better to me. So maybe just like a slight tweak will make these more useful. And it's not as if the black's giving us anything in the sideboard outside of Abrupt Decay, which is nice, but we could just have like more prismatic endings, which kind of do a similar thing a lot of the time, and relatively flexible. So that's probably a better way of going. This doesn't really feel like our deck wins with Painter's Servant Grindstone, and it feels that we're not really set up to be a Painter's Servant Grindstone deck. We're just sort of like a Bant control deck that happens to have this other thing going on. Now, sometimes you can lock people with Mana Maze or whatever, but that feels more like a sideboard plan. So we're kind of like, we're not a Bant control deck, and we're not a Painter's Servant Grindstone dedicated combo deck either. We're just sort of this weird thing of like getting both of them, and sometimes you can take the best of both worlds and make like a new archetype that works really well. I think the 8-cast Painter deck, for example, is a very good taking a Painter deck, taking the 8-cast deck and actually going, well, some of these 8-cast cards aren't actually that good right now. Whereas the Painter stuff, having a combo that can just win the game outright when you've got all these aggressive decks and fast decks, feels like a really nice place to be. So that's a nice little merging of two things where I think actually it's more than the sum of its parts. Whereas sometimes you take two different decks and you kind of throw them together and you don't really have enough to do either one's game plan that well. And I think that's kind of where I land on this deck. Like, we went 0-6 in games for the first 3 rounds, which is, you know, not really where you want to be. I just didn't feel like our cards were that impactful in a lot of matchups. Like Teferi, you know, Teferi's a good card. The problem is so many things are coming down before Teferi and doing like all sorts of stuff that Teferi isn't as good as it once was. When games were slower and the ability to stop your opponent's playing instants was a lot stronger. You know, that was good. Obviously, it's in here for the lock with Mana Maze, so your opponent can't ever cast spells on your turn. And your opponent basically can't ever cast spells if you've got an Ephemerate Eternal Witness loop going. But again, that's a 4-card combo that doesn't win you the game. It stops your opponent ever playing a spell, so, you know, eventually you're going to win the game. Unless they've got things like Otawara or Boseiju, which are, yet again, more reasons why this doesn't necessarily work. Because you've got things that aren't spells, whether it's Urza's Saga being the best one, but Boseiju, Otawara, even the Manland from the Red Prison decks that's you see. And you see Sozukan to knock down Planeswalkers in some of the mono-red painted lists as well. So there's a lot of things that people can play around a Mana Maze lock. And it's very difficult to get a Mana Maze lock in the current speed of the format. So I actually like the sideboard though for this deck for the most part. I think the sideboard is relatively well built. It sort of does the things you want. Even though it's a lot of cards, they're sort of covering similar bases but slightly different. So they're more or less interchangeable in a lot of ways. I think the problem is that what we're trying to achieve for the most part doesn't really compete with where Legacy is at right now. If the format were to slow down a lot with a series of bannings and we had a lot more control decks and, you know, just longer games happening of Legacy, then I think maybe you could revisit this. I definitely want to be straight up Bant rather than splashing the black, but I think you could revisit this and if the meta changed and sort of tweak things around a little bit where some of the cards that we're playing just become better. So whether it's like Teferi and our Eternal Witnesses, things like that, which sort of later game lower impact cards, they become better when the format slows down. So maybe it's just not the spot for it, but as it stands, I don't really like this deck, if I'm being perfectly honest. It was nice to see something a bit different and give it a go, and I definitely think you could improve upon what I've done here, make the little tweaks I said, and put some hours into playing it, and you could probably get some better results with it than I have. I could see if you were to thread the needle, you might be able to get 5-up, but I don't think if you're playing against a highly competitive format that you can expect to do, you know, top 8s and things like that with this sort of deck. I just don't think that... I think the percentages are too low in some of the matchups, and some of our cards are just going to be dead in so many matchups. Although if we can get some Ice-Fangs with Death Touch, that would sort of help some of it out. Alright, I think I've done talking about this one. Sorry if my debrief was a bit long, but I think there's a lot to talk about with this deck and why it doesn't necessarily always function or why it doesn't fit into the meta or whatever. I think there's a lot to talk about it. So that's why I've been rambling on. So we are done now. I'm just going to say like, comment, subscribe. These things cost you nothing. They help me out. And I hope you enjoy my Legacy content. All right. Thank you very much and goodbye.